So I've got 2 cat tags. This past year we had 2 Fisher / Martin tags. You could take 2 Martin, but no more than 1 Fisher in those 2 tags. We can take 4 otters as well. So per person, yeah. And I team trap with my dad, so that gives us a lot more opportunity to,
What part of the UP? What, near Seney or?
I live in Sheboygan, and I have a cabin near Seney, and I run that whole stretch every 3 days.
Wow.
So I run from my house, stay at my cabin, and then usually stay 1 day, go back home, and then do it again in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So
what else do you catch other than those few that you have tags for? Or the cat and the
yeah, so I go after beaver mostly. So I guess I'll lay out what I do. So
yeah. Okay.
So to run a big line like what I do, especially for predators, I use a lot of bait. So I start October 25th for beaver, and I'm after beaver strictly for bait pretty much. I got to fill all my freezers with beaver meat to be able to go all winter on how I operate. I start setting up now, August, September. I have my line ready to go, so on October 25th, I'm just setting traps. Everything's already, I've already got marten poles up right now that I use year to year, and I just go in and hang my trap and I'm ready to roll. I set a lot of cubbies. I don't have much wood here, and I wasn't going to bring one with me, but I pretty much built a small log cabin with about 15 to 20 inches wide and about 20 inches tall for a cubby. And I build them so I only got to build them every 4 or 5 years at the most. Maybe even longer. I've got some that are been out there a long time. I'll even carve. I take a chainsaw and I'll carve out logs and make cubbies with that, so they'll last. And
what is a cubby?
A cubby? So a cubby is like a box, and you put bait in the back of the box. So I'll go over some of the tools that I think you got to have for running a line like I do. You got to have a good chainsaw. You got to have a good GPS. I use Onyx. I swear by Onyx. That's like my Bible, because if I lost my Onyx, I'd be out of luck, because I got about 400 points in there saved, and I use that to map my route. And they're in there forever, so I just go back to those spots. I'm already set up. And a catch pole. A catch pole is very crucial for where I trap. And I'll go into that in a minute here. So when I'm running my cubbies, I run almost all number 2s and number 3 double long springs. They're been fitted with a bigger trap pan, just a bigger target area. I got these from a cat trapper out west, and I really like them. They hold really well, and they fire through snow with no problem. So when I have my cubby, I'm not going to go through all of it here, but I pound in my bed. I don't cover my traps because I really want cats, and marten and fisher are not going to shy away from an exposed trap either. So in October we can start taking cats. I'll leave this wide open, and also what I'm after in October is skunks. If I could catch 200 skunks, I would. I wouldn't go for anything else. But so I leave my cubby wide open. Got my trap set in the middle here, and the reason I do that is I'm trying to avoid my fisher and martin. Usually they run the edge, and they'll go in and get the bait, and I don't ever catch them because I don't want to have to mess with them, release them, or take the chance of killing one before December. When it comes to December, fish and martin season opens, I block down and I have a narrow path. I'll get refusals on cats, but usually I've already got my cats by that point anyways. But the whole point is I've had beaver meat in here since October, and now we're in December, so I've kept this box fresh. And I've had stuff, yeah.
Do you pre-bait it all, like before season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I start. I'll go up to do some bow hunting.
Yep.
And I start baiting.
Okay.
Yep. And I keep the bait poured to it all the way till I fill my
Okay.
tag.
I was going to ask too with the cubbies. You never had no problem. You ever have problems with bears?
Yes.
I was going to say
Yep.
you probably would.
I
Yeah.
got a problem with bears early on.
Yeah.
This year, it was raining during martin season.
Yeah,
And we still had bears in the woods.
Yeah.
And I actually had bears ripping down my leaning pole sets to take the beaver meat out. That usually never happens,
Yeah.
but this year it did.
Yeah.
There wasn't much of a winter though.
You're right, yeah. So I do have a problem with bears, and I have a problem with bears tearing my cubbies, but it's just what I got
You got to deal with it. Yeah.
Back to the catch pole. You set as much steel as I do up there, you're going to get a wolf. I mean, there's just no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to want to mess with one without a catch pole.
Right.
So buy a good catch pole. You get wolf. You got a possibility of, having to release a bear sometime. When you're over your cats, you got to release cats. So buy a dang catch pole.
Yeah.
And spend the money on a good one. Because it's going to be a crucial tool. If you're interested in more fisher and martin, I use a leaning pole set. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay. Does anybody else know what I'm talking about when I say a leaning pole set? Okay.
No, I don't.
Yep, it's okay. So I'll find a nice big spruce or cedar, and I cut poles, and I cut big poles, and I'll go into that in a minute, but I'll cut a big pole, and you lean that pole up on that tree, your bait goes up at the top of the pole, and you use a trap in between, which I use a conibear in between. I close it, you can't have exposed bait, so I close it all in, basically build a cubby out of spruce boughs up there. And when you're over 48 inches, you can run any conibear legal. So I use the biggest conibear I can when I still have cat tags.
I was going to say for cats. Yeah.
And I use a big conibear. You can use 330s even up as long as you're over that 48 inches.
You mean 48 inches what? Off the ground?
Off the ground.
Okay.
Yep. So once you're above that 48 inches, any conibear is legal above there. I went to using all pans. So I use a trap. I take my triggers off and I use trap pans on all my conibears now. And my refusals went way down because you've got a big open hole now that they'll just can.
You've noticed that in the snow, I'm assuming?
So I also started using a lot of trail cameras.
Oh, yeah.
And when you use a trail camera, you're going to want to take all your gear and just throw it in the
Right.
trash. After you watch video after video, you think you're doing something because you'll get there and you'll have a catch, but you didn't know there was 10 other visits before you caught that.
Yeah, sure.
Caught that cat. So it's very frustrating, but you can learn a heck of a lot off of it. What I'm running is just very simple. I mean, those are all the sets I make. Out of my cubbies, I'm taking fox. I've caught coyotes. It's not a coyote set, but I've caught coyotes. When you get down to 10 below, and you got a big pile of meat in the back of a box, anything's going to go in there.
Even with that exposed trap, you caught the coyotes?
Trap,
Yeah, no kidding.
back to I'm kind of bouncing all over here, but back to the exposed trap. So what I found works the best, especially if we have snow, and I pack it down. I take spruce boughs and I make my bed out of spruce boughs, and that trap won't freeze to those spruce boughs. Now you want to make sure you've got it bedded solid, just like you would, because if he steps on it, you don't want it to rock. But I'll cover up the springs. I don't want it just wide open, but I leave that trap wide open there. And like I said, in the early on, I'm really hoping to catch a lot of skunks, but I've caught a lot of coon. I caught over 100 coon out of just cubbies.
Yeah.
In the UP in January, doing that. So.
Now, how do you get the skunks out without getting sprayed?
I dispatch them in the trap, and usually I don't have a problem. In fact, I don't want them to spray because I'm after the essence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like chest or rib cage shoot them, or you just right in the head? Or?
I've tried chest.
Yeah.
Honestly, I head shoot
Okay.
all of them, and 1 in 10 spray for me.
Okay,
But I've
yeah.
had guys say they spray every time for them, so
With a 22?
with the 22. Yep.
Pistol or rifle?
I always carry a rifle. I had an incident with so on my traps, where I'm at is either hard rock or it's swamp, and so I can't stake anything. I run drags on all of my leg holds, and I had an incident with a big male coyote one time, and I was trying to shoot him with a pistol. After that, I just carry a rifle now, and then I can give a little space between
Sure.
me and him.
You come unhooked on you?
Yeah, and this is. I actually run more chain than this. I run about 6 foot of chain with a big one of those Freedom brand drags.
Yeah, those are good drags.
And they don't go but 10 yards where I'm at because it's all thick cedars. And you'll have a cat, maybe work his way up a tree. That's not a problem either because I've had wolves kill cats in my sets, so I don't mind letting them get up off the ground as long as I can get them down.
Right. Yeah.
And can you explain what a drag is?
Yeah, a drag is essentially a big chunk of steel with, like, you make it like a hook, like a grappling hook.
Oh, okay.
And instead of driving a stake in the ground to secure your trap, you've got this drag that when they go to leave with the trap, it should get hooked up somewhere.
Okay.
And then you can just.
How much does
find
the
it.
steel weigh?
Oh, I bet it's 10 pounds probably, the ones I use.
Okay.
So, yeah. And they're gnarly too. I mean, they got big angles on them and they're sharp and they
Snag
don't
on
really go
stuff.
anywhere. Yeah. They'll dig
They
right
usually leave a trail.
And they leave a heck of a trail too. What a lot of guys do that I've learned is you can wrap some flagging. If I'm trapping somewhere that's a little more open, I'll wrap some flagging around that drag, and when he pulls that drag out, he'll drag that flagging out too, and then you can find them. So, but I've never had one go very far. So, I don't know. Has he got any other questions at all? Yes.
What are you looking for location when you set, or you're just setting bait sets and letting
Yep.
them to you?
Okay, so out of everything I trap, the two animals that are most crucial to location are cats and marten. Marten, the number one predator of marten is an owl, and he does not like to be in the open. So when you're looking for somewhere to set marten sets, you're looking for old growth, thick stuff you would basically want to crawl through to get in there to set. The thicker the woods, the more chance you're going to get marten. Now fisher, nothing really messes with fisher. They don't care. I've caught them in open woods. I've caught them, all over the place. But the marten, definitely. Cats, same thing. I'm looking for cedars and spruce. I want boughs touching the ground, and the reason is that holds snowshoes and partridge, and they're coming in there to hunt. And that's my favorite location to put cat sets in the UP is thick. I'm also, where I'm at, I'm not looking for sign. When I see a set of cat tracks across the road, it's already too late for me. Because they run such a big territory there that it might be 4 or 5 days before he comes back. So I'm always looking for a place that just looks catty, and that's how I've had my best luck. I've never caught one where I saw tracks, made a set there. It's just never happened for me. But if I go somewhere where I just, man, this looks like a good cat spot, that's where I usually get them at. So, martin, once again, you're not looking for sign because they spend all their time up in the trees. You're not really going to find scat. Now, like I told you earlier, I pre-bait, so I have already got my martin and fisher pretty well cornered by the time the season opens, because especially if we got snow, there's the boxes. I already know that they're been hitting them hard, and usually it's a 1-2 night deal for me to show my tags.
So they'll come down the tree and go into one of those boxes for the bait, and you catch them like that?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And back to bait, I've tried everything. I've tried fish. I had a guy give me a bunch of chickens. I mean, I've tried every bait you could think of, and beaver, hands down, is the best. I won't even waste my time putting anything but beaver in there. So, I've talked to guys up in Alaska that have unlimited time, unlimited ones they can catch, and they use some fish, but they'll even say it's not the best. You know, it's not the best. So here in Michigan, you're only got 10 days, and you can only catch 2. You better use what what they want. So, and that is hands down beaver meat. I've tried mixing castor with random meat I had, thinking maybe I could do it, but that's still never worked. Beaver meat's hands down the best. No, it's all frozen. All the beaver meat I use is frozen. I started in October 25th when we can start water trapping, and slam a bunch of beaver in the freezer, and that usually gets me through the winter. Somebody did say something about coyotes. I do trap some coyotes, and what I'm going to tell you that I do is not what anybody else does, because I don't use dirt holes or anything. I use draw stations and I use bait stations. I'll find a big cedar thicket. I'll load it with roadkill deer, beaver carcasses, coon carcasses, everything I got. Biggest bait I can put in. The more bait, the better. And we got one right there. The more crows I get, ravens I get in there tearing that up, just draws everything in. And then what I do, once I get a bait set, give it some time, I start getting tracks. I go way back and I blind set. I mean, sometimes 200-300 yards from where the bait station's at. And I get a few. I'm not out there to kill a bunch of them, just a few in the winter. So, but you catch everything that way. Everything's coming into the bait. So, and once I like to put bait down like a ravine, and then or just a low area, and then I'm setting the high sides. Because usually, a lot of coyotes won't even come into that bait. Baits kind of spook them, so they'll come in and sometimes they'll work that circle around there for 10 days before they get the courage up to drop down into that bait.
So then you'll set traps outside of the circle, and then do you bait those?
Nope, no bait, no.
You just
no
they
scent.
step in it?
I just look for somewhere where I think they're gonna pass through.
Oh, okay.
And some sort of.
Is that what you call? Is that a blind? Is that
That's
what a blind set
yeah.
is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Completely blind.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll get them where they're worked down a trail, and that's a great spot. But a lot of times I'm just, if I was trying to make my way in there, that's where I would walk, and that works. So.
Question over here.
Yeah.
Are you dragging those traps?
I'm 100% drags. Yeah, Where I'm at, I was saying earlier, it's either rock or it's marsh, and stakes are no good to me, essentially. So, yep. I use about 6 foot of chain usually with the Freedom brand. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of swivels. More swivels, the better.
How do you pound steaks in the winter when the ground's froze?
Well, that's why I use drags too. And sometimes, this year it didn't happen, but sometimes I'm on 4 foot of snow. You know, and you're setting where, you know, you'd never be able to drive steak in.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to have 20 feet chain to get down into the dirt. So, but I also make a lot of drags. I'll cut dead tamarack or dead spruce, and I use this wire here. It's, I don't know, you can about barely twist it with your hand, and I'll just tie off on a big, like 8 foot spruce log, and it's not really a drag, it's pretty well anchored at that point, but if they drag it at all, it's not very far. When does it? What's that?
What is the open?
Yeah.
I want you to add how you catch the biggest and the best stuff on your blind sets over your baited sets. You don't catch all the young pups. On the blind sets, you usually catch the best, biggest,
Yeah,
nicest
usually.
critters.
Yeah,
the ones
usually-
that are already trap shy.
Yeah, usually I'm catching on the coyotes. I'm catching big males usually, because they're the ones that won't go into the bait. Right? They're the ones that are the most leery about baits. Wolves, and the wolves generally stay away from baits too. They freak out about them too. For whatever reason, they freak out about baits too. So, which is good. I'd rather not have to deal with them. So,
So what about, they got these big live traps, and a cage in there, you put a rabbit or a chicken in there, and they brush them in and catch bobcats and coyotes. What do you think of that?
I don't know. I don't use any live traps. There's guys out west that are using live traps, but I've never really used them at all. Not for what I'm doing like that. So.
Comment about that.
I caught a red fox in one of them have-a-heart raccoon live cages. For the raccoons, I caught a red fox in one of them. Just in my backyard for critters and that in my backyard.
And also, somebody maybe said something about otters too. I fill all my otter tags without. I am not looking for toilets or anything. I 100% blind set otters too. When I'm out setting, whenever I find a creek, I just plug with a 330 and keep going. So, and I can wind up with my 4 without a problem. So they really aren't that tough to catch. With otter, it's more a waiting game. I had one 330 plugging a culvert for 2 weeks, and I caught that otter. It took 2 weeks to catch an otter. So that means not anything of any size had went through that culvert in 2 weeks until he came through there. Generally, I mean, I guess you could have some smaller otter that would have avoided it, but you just gotta be patient, especially in the UP and it's cold. If you want to catch a lot of stuff every day, that's not the place to go. I check a lot of empty traps, but when I get a big weather change, you better get ready to skin, because that's when you're gonna hit either a big warm up or a big cold front. I was before pulling sets with thread of big snow, and I kind of got burned on it because, well, we ended up not getting that much snow. Or I've been burned the other way and got a lot. So one thing I started doing, I don't really have to worry about theft where I'm at because I'm way in the bush. When we get into December, I'll hang a big flag right above my trap. And if we get 3 feet of snow, I can snowshoe in there and dig it out. So, but I still give my chance right up to the last minute that thing's buried, keeping it working. So, instead of pulling everything and resetting 2 days later because you never got any snow. So.
Can you explain that? So, if you're going to get a big snow, you pull your traps out because they'll get buried. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't anymore. I just make sure they're marked really well
Oh, okay.
and go back in and fix whatever I have to fix. So, but you just gotta have them marked real well, and then you can find them again. So.
And every trap that you set out there, do you bait every trap?
When I use the cubbies, all the cubbies are baited. All my leaning pole sets for Fisher and Martin are baited.
Okay.
Other than that, I got a lot of friends that are lure makers, so I don't want them to hear this, but I don't really use a lot of lure. I think I have about 3 bottles of lure beating around in my truck, and that's about it. I use some beaver lure, and I do use on my cubbies, and I'll even tell you what I use. I use Hellfire on my cubbies, and it really increases the call that you get. I get response in a day or two of using Hellfire. After I bait it up, put Hellfire on. Versus if I don't use any LDC, sometimes it takes a week before I'll have something working the bait. And that's another thing on the cubbies. My Bobcat cubbies, every time I set a Bobcat cubby, I'm setting at least 2 weasel boxes with it. And usually I can get 1 weasel every trip I go out. And that's, I got a taxidermist that buys them for $10. I put a bunch up and send them to FHA and got $4. So that's a $5 bill every time I'm going in there pretty much. So that and red squirrels. You can sell red squirrels for $1. So at least you're getting something instead of nothing each time. And I really like to set heavy. If I'm setting an area, if I got to cross a creek to go in there, it's going to blind set. The more you set, the more you're going to catch. So.
What are you using for the red squirrels?
Red squirrels, I just use in fact, this year I actually targeted red squirrels. I was using my weasel boxes, but with peanut butter inside instead of, bait in the back, meat in the back. So, and with my weasels, I found beaver meat works fantastic. They talk about using a bloody piece of meat or something. That does work too, but it works just as good with a chunk of beaver meat in the back. So, I guess that's about all I got. Thanks for coming, guys. So, and join the NTA or join your association, whatever it is, but we got to fight to keep what we're doing. So, thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.